So good evening, everyone, and welcome to Thursday. I'm so excited about tonight's event. I think it's a really special event, making a list, checking it twice. And just in case you're wondering, no, we're not reverting to Christmas. We are talking about the college list. So while we wait for all of our Thursday night viewers to log in and get on top of joining us, I have a little pop quiz for you about the goal of applying to college. So give it a read. Wondering what you think. Is it A, to brag about the list of fancy schools you applied to? B, to add stress to your life just because? C, to actually attend college, hopefully one that you enjoy being at? And D, there's a goal? So while you're filling that out, I'll give you a little bit of an introduction about me, but feel free also to throw any kind of questions or concerns that you have about list building into the comments box on your streaming platform. We want to know what you want to know and make sure that we give you all the information that you want. So I'm Kelsey Torosyan, the Director of Client Services at Colledge. And not only am I thrilled that you are here, but I honestly could not be more excited about our incredible guest interviewee tonight, the brilliant and talented Miss Amy Abrams, Director of College Counseling at Wildwood School and one of the best darn counselors I know. And I know everybody just hold your cheers. You're cheering for her at home like, but the downside of stream defense is we can't actually hear you. So I'll share instead, but welcome, Amy. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you, Kelsey. Happy to be here.
Yay. Well, I'm really happy that you're joining me tonight, particularly because this is an event that has the goal of bringing better access to higher education, better information about college admissions to students and families everywhere. And I really can't think of a better person for everyone to learn from than you. And everybody will hear why that is, and you'll agree with me. I'm confident in a moment. But tonight really is a unique opportunity for all of you out there to benefit from two really different counseling perspectives. Somebody who is an experienced, seasoned high school side counselor and somebody who's an independent counselor, about the importance of the college list and how to find fit. And of course, to ask all of those questions, you might be a little nervous about asking your own school counselor, but we'll touch on what balance is and how it's changed post-2020, elements of fit to consider, how to really utilize your college counselor. And before we dive in, we're going to have some really, really fantastic giveaways at the end of tonight's show. And so I'm going to throw a link to a survey for you to just fill out real quick, to give us your best email address. You can fill it out now, or at some point tonight, we can send you the recording and our giveaways, which will include $100 off of a student assessment for admissions, which is a really valuable counseling call with us, and our college list building guide. Add any questions, comments that you have to the comments box. We'll answer as many as we can by the end of our conversation this evening. So Amy, I want to hear you talk a little bit. Tell us why we should listen to you, why you're such an expert, a little bit about your background.
Okay. Well, it all started back at Skidmore College, my alma mater, when I was a tour guide and worked in the admission office.
Mm-hmm.
Once I graduated, I ended up moving to Philadelphia, where I got my first job in college admission at the University of Pennsylvania, where I stayed for 10 years.
Wow.
And then I sort of was bitten by the bug to move to California. So I left Penn and moved to Pasadena,
Mm-hmm.
and worked at Occidental College for 4 years. And then, missing home on the East Coast, I moved a little bit more east to be the director of admission at Scripps College in Claremont, California for 11 years. And then I really jumped all the way across the country again to be the Dean of Admission and Financial Aid at Sarah Lawrence College. And after the economy tanked in 2008, and after being in meetings over and over again and being a gatekeeper, I decided I wanted to be on the other side of the desk and help students through the process with my knowledge of having been on the other side of the desk in college admission for so long. So I was lucky enough to be hired at Wildwood, where I've been for the past 11 years, and have helped hundreds and hundreds of students through the college application process.
Amazing, Amy. I mean, you've had such a career, and I think your kids are so lucky to have you.
Okay.
And I'm happy that you're in California as well. So speaking of the list, just to give everybody a precursor, of course, the list of colleges is the list of colleges you're applying to. But I think what people don't quite put together is that the college list is really a roadmap. In the end, where you apply dictates where you get in, almost, in a way as much as your grades or any other portion, possibly more, because if you don't apply to the right places, you might not get in anywhere, right? So,
Right.
really want to kind of underline that for people. And speaking of list building, you've had this career in admissions, you've watched application after application come across your desk. Now you're a seasoned college counselor. What
Mhm.
would you say is kind of the most common pitfall of list building that you see when your students first start with you?
Well, I think a lot of times students will focus on a particular school.
Mm-hmm.
The big one for that I have had many students focus on is NYU. Uh, they want to be in New York City, they want to be at NYU, and they can't see anything else. They want to apply early decision. That's what they're going to do. They're going to get in, and that's going to be the end. Well, it's important to have a balanced list because you don't know. There's so many different criteria, things that change over the years, the pandemic, increase in applications, test optional. So it's really important to have a balanced list and not to really, really, really narrowly focus only on one school.
Yeah.
Maybe look at other schools in New York. Also remember, think about where you live. If you live in California, be sure to have a couple schools on the West Coast on your list just in case maybe there's a pandemic or something and you want to be closer to home. And really just think about who you are and what is the best fit for you, because there are over 3,000 colleges and universities in the country, and they're bound to be 10 or 12 or more that would be a good fit. So be open.
Mhm.
To thinking about schools outside of the ones that you have in your head that you already know about, because you don't know where your right fit college will come from.
That's such good advice, Amy. And I think that that's really, really good to know. And I think students don't realize how regionally known schools that aren't the big name brand schools are. Like everybody's heard of NYU or UCLA. But if you're, a West Coast like LA local, you'll know Loyola Marymount and you'll know Occidental and maybe you've heard of Pitzer. But if you're from, I don't know, Chicago, you may never have heard of those schools, right? It doesn't mean they're not good schools. So, such good advice to stay open and balance your list. So, speaking of the pandemic, since you brought it up, um, we've been watching, not that it's something to laugh about, of course, but we're watching a lot change in admissions really, really quickly these past several years. And I'd love to hear your kind of wisdom, your observations, and of course, words of advice on what balance means. Maybe has changed in the last few years, what it is now, what it was before, and what people should think about.
Mm-hmm. Well, before the pandemic, just to give you an example, I would say I would have students apply to 8 to 10 schools.
Mm-hmm.
Now I say 10 to 12. If you're applying into a really specific program like musical theater, or you're looking at a particular area of engineering that's super competitive, maybe you add a couple more schools to the list. And I'm okay with that. I think test optional, that popped up because all the test centers were closed.
Yeah.
Students couldn't, especially in California, couldn't take the test. So schools went test optional, which then really did cause them to do a holistic review on an application, which is good, right? So they're not just focusing on test scores and GPA, but they're looking at the whole picture and seeing what students are involved in and what they could bring to the school and what they've done in their community.
Yeah.
I think demonstrated interest has popped up even more, especially during the pandemic, with a whole platform across the board for every college and university having online virtual info sessions and tours, and that you can dial into in the middle of the night if you want to from anywhere you are. So there's no excuse not to visit, whether it's in person or virtual, to every college in the country.
Yeah. That's really good. I mean, I think, really being aware and really taking ownership as a student and as a family of doing your due diligence, doing your research. And it sounds like applying a little more broadly, and being a little bit more padded on your list, quite frankly. One thing I've noticed is schools really focusing even more so on the transcript and wanting to see strong transcript, strong rigor, things like that. There are lots and lots of schools, though, that's in the context of the schools. There are lots of schools that will be really excited about a student who has maybe a 3.5 or a 3.3. But you just have to do your due diligence and do that research, making sure that you have those options at the end of the day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So in terms of then, like, okay, there's where you could get in, but then there's maybe separately where you would want to go. And I know I've watched you do it. You have this incredible knack for making like snap identifications of best fit schools for students. But many students out there don't know their counselors well, or simply just don't have a lot of access to them. What recommendations do you have for students and parents as they kind of approach college research themselves and try to discover like what they would want since they haven't gone to college yet?
Well, I think students can ask themselves lots of questions. Where do I want to live for the next 4 years? Do I want to be in a rural location, a suburban location, a city location? Do I want to be able to get on a plane in Los Angeles and get off the plane in New York or in Philadelphia and not have to change planes? What am I looking for? Small, medium, large? Who am I? What am I interested in studying? And it's okay to say you don't know, because then you go to a school that will allow you to sort of try things on for size and wait until your end of your sophomore year to pick your major. So I think it's a sort of looking inside and thinking about who you are as an individual. And as you approach the research process, looking at things like the Fisk Guide to Colleges, which I love, niche.com, which is a great website, which is filled with student feedback, those virtual platforms of information sessions and tours, talking to your family, talking to your older siblings, your cousins, your parents, students that you know that go to that particular school or those schools that you're interested in. See if you can go and visit. It's not necessary to visit every single school, and colleges and universities understand that. But as you think about the next 4 years, do you want to reinvent yourself? Do you have a really narrow focused academically that you know that you want to be a doctor, or you want to be an engineer, or you want to be an artist or a dancer? Then you need to have schools that have those programs. And because if they don't have really good programs in those areas, you might end up transferring, which not the end of the world.
Yes.
The end of the world. I've seen students do it all the time, but you just want to make sure that the academic program is there, that you trust your gut when you go to campus and you see, okay, what do the people look like? What are they talking about? What does the newspaper say? Pick up the newspaper when you're on every campus to see what the issues are on campus and what's important to the student body and to the faculty.
Love all of those pieces of advice. And also for a student who maybe can't visit too much outside of their driving range, go visit different types of colleges that are within driving range, right? Part of the college visit process is about learning about yourself. So if some of those answers to the questions that Amy was, spouting out there are I don't know, then go get on a college campus and ask yourself there, like, how does it feel? I often think it's like trying on clothes, like, oh, this jacket's super cute, but a little tight in my shoulders, or this fabric's a little itchy, right? And so then you can start to pick and choose the things that really resonate with you to put in your basket of fit.
Yep. And in LA, you can visit Occidental, small liberal arts college. You can go to USC and you go to UCLA.
Yep.
You can see 3 different size schools, locations, and see how you feel.
Yeah, really, really great. Thank you, Amy. So as we kind of wrap up from our questions and get to any viewer questions that we may have tonight, what advice? I think sometimes students are really nervous to go see their counselor, start to have that relationship. What advice do you have for students out there as they approach those first meetings with their college counselors?
Well, it's so funny. I was just talking to some students at school the other day who are seniors, and they said to me, when I was a sophomore, I was so scared of you.
Aww.
And I looked at them and I said, of me? Like, I'm the scariest person in the whole universe. And they said, yeah. And I said, but it wasn't me. It was my title, right? It was college. I said, but once you got to know me, then you were good, right? And they're like, yeah. And so I think sometimes it's scary and hard to go to somebody that you don't know and introduce yourself. But this person at your school is going to help you through the process, right? They're going to send the documents to the colleges. Maybe they'll look at your essays. They'll help you figure out what teachers to write letters of recommendation for you. They'll make sure that if you take standardized testing, that you do it. And they're there just to ask any questions when you're nervous and anxious, because it is a process that makes you question a lot of things. And it's a process that makes you think about yourself, because for the first time, you're going to write an essay that's focused on you, not on somebody else, but on you. And oftentimes that's the hardest thing to do. So to have somebody there at school to bounce ideas off of, to just go in and say, I'm really nervous, or this admission officer is coming to visit and I really want to meet them in the front office and walk them to the college counseling center. Can I do that? And you get a resounding yes, you can do that. That's awesome. And just somebody to support you, because it's an unknown process, right? And when you start filling out the common application, you'll get a better sense. When you start thinking about your essay, you'll get a better sense. But that person is there. Be open, be a little vulnerable, right? If you don't know what you're interested in, let them know. And it's okay, like I said, to be undecided. Probably the most popular major in the world is undecided for going to college. But just know that that person is there. Those people in the college office are there to help you. And you might be a little anxious, you might be nervous, but just go in. They probably have a big thing of candy that you could have a piece of candy. And you can sit, or you can have a cup of tea. That's what I have in my office, a cup of tea, just sit down and have a conversation. So just be open, be vulnerable, and trust them, and trust the journey. Trust the journey, because you're going to end up where you're supposed to be.
I love that, Amy. And I think it's really true. And really lean on the folks around you, right? You're not alone. And that might be your counselor. It might be a teacher that you're really close to. Your counselor is a wonderful resource, right? But then you might be closer to a teacher. You might be closer to a parent or an uncle. There might be an outside person, like an outside counselor like us, that you might be working with. But as much as you can just be honest with yourself and honest with the people that are on your team and helping you, and not fly off the cliff as you're driving towards your college, the better that they can help you. Well, let's go ahead and open things up a little bit to some seed questions, or to some questions. So while people are popping things, anything on their mind into the comments box, I want to encourage everybody to click on the form. It's the first link that I threw into the comments box earlier tonight, to share your best contact information so that we can give our amazing giveaways to you, our college list building guide, and $100 off a counseling call with us. And then, as we I was thinking about questions that we hear a lot, and what's on students' minds right now. And one of the big ones is academic planning. So any quick words of advice, Amy, on academic planning and how to think about what to take next year, no matter, honestly, like, yes, for seniors, or for rising seniors, but for anybody, like, how do you think about that?
Yes. It's so funny. That I feel like I have a revolving door in my office now, because course registration just opened. So I've got the juniors coming in saying, I want to go to these colleges. What should I take? And maybe I want to drop this class and add this elective. And I had 10th graders come in today. So it's important to think about what you might want to do. Like, if you have an idea of what you want to study, to make sure that you have the courses, right? So let's say you're interested in business. You should have math all 4 years. If you are interested in psychology, maybe you end up taking stats instead of calculus. But you should take a rigorous curriculum. But remember that in senior year in particular, you've got to balance applying to college, your extracurriculars, and your classwork. right? So you want to make sure that you can balance all of those and that you're not up 24 hours a day, and you're, make sure you're eating and sleeping and enjoying your senior year, because you only have that once. But think about the course offerings. If you have APs or honors classes or accelerated classes, be sure to have some of those on your schedule, depending upon what schools you're most interested in. Some of your schools will have required classes that you must take for graduation, and that's really important. For those that are applying to UCs, make sure you have your A through G requirements covered. So when you submit your application, you can submit it rather than a little thing popping up saying you don't have your F credit, your art credit. You don't want that to happen last minute as you're pushing the button to submit your application. But think about your interests, think about requirements, think about rigor, think about, doing really well in all of your classes in senior year, even though the last full year of grades that colleges will see will be your junior year. They will still look at your senior mid-year grades. So no senioritis in those classes that you've picked and that you're excited about, because your college counselor will send your mid-year grades to all the schools that you've applied to.
Yeah, that's something that I think is often overlooked in student minds. Ninth grade grades are looked at, even at UCs, but they're not considered in the GPA. And 12th grade quarter and sometimes semester grades, depending on when you apply, are also looked at. So they don't not count. You don't get a free pass. Sorry, guys. So we're getting pretty close to time here, but let's do one last quick question. Tell me a little bit about how to think visiting colleges during spring break, what to do during a visit, how to figure out where to visit, the highlights there. Yeah.
So some families might want to stay in California and visit UCs and Cal States and private schools because they don't have a ton of time, or they just want to stay on the ground and drive. Some will go to the East Coast. A lot of my families end up going to the East Coast. They visit some family members. They visit schools in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Connecticut, various parts of Connecticut, DC, and they'll do that trip during spring break, and then maybe they'll do the Pacific Northwest at another time, or the Midwest. You just pick a region, and then just remember, try not to visit 4 or 5 schools a day. Your head will just spin off your body because it'll be too much information. A couple schools, a nice lunch in the middle, a good breakfast, exploring the area, talking to students on campus, going into the bookstore, maybe buying a little swag, looking at the newspaper again, going off the beaten track and just looking at the area, the town. Is there a Trader Joe's there? Is there a Target? Is there, a great coffee shop that you can go to? And just sort of trust your gut, right? And schedule those visits sooner rather than later, because they do book up. You will probably see, if you go to the East Coast, you will probably see everybody that you've known since you were born. And you'll see kids that you haven't seen since camp in elementary school, and it'll be fun, and you'll run into your friends from school and your friends from all different areas. And just remember, when you're on those campuses, you're a representative of yourself and your school. So be sure to walk up right next to the tour guide, ask some good questions, sit in the information session, maybe ask questions if you have them, get the business card of your admission officer, send them a little email that says, "It was so great to be on campus. Sorry I didn't get a chance to meet you, but I hope to meet you at my school this fall."
Great advice.
And take notes and photos.
Take notes and photos. Yes. And if your parent is with you, you can have them be the videographer, right? So that they're really the one taking stock. But really fantastic advice. So thank you so much all. And I hope you stay tuned for our next live interview, getting educated about college, on researching, visiting, more on visiting, and connecting with colleges, coming up on March 23rd. I'm going to put the link to sign up for a free ticket in the comments box. And we're going to be joined by Ed Devine, who's
awesome. He's awesome. You should come. It's good. He's great.
Super awesome. Yes, he's the Western Regional Director of Admissions at Xavier University. I was just watching their basketball team play, and it's going to be a great one. So don't miss that one. And then we would love to get your feedback on, if tonight was helpful. Your honest feedback is always much appreciated. And also make sure to share your contact information so that we can get you those great giveaways. And it really, more than anything, as we try to reach as many families as we can to provide as much information as we can. I just want to thank you all for joining us. And Amy, I want to thank you for your wisdom. We've already gotten a lovely thank you in our chat box from Ms. Erica. Thank you so much. And anybody out there, if you feel like you need more help, remember that your counselor is here. And we would love to support you as well here at Colledge in any step in your family's journey. I'll go ahead and put our direct contact in the chat as well. And thank you so much, Amy, for joining us tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. Good luck, everybody. Have fun.
Yay. Go tour.